Hi, entrepreneurs, influencers, and small business owners. A warm welcome to you. Sorry, we are running a little late on the show this morning, and it goes to show you that in our new normal, sometimes tech does have the better of us, especially when we are trying to connect with everybody out online. So I do apologize for us being a little bit late this morning, but not to worry. Let's get this show on the road. So today we're going to be speaking to a special guest of mine, and this is the investment series, which is powered by Fedgroup. And this morning we're going to actually uncover, and you'll discover some awesome insight when it comes to wills and trusts. But before we start, let's start our show. A warm welcome, everybody. Stay tuned. All right, so today we're going to be asking the question, how do you secure your business future? After all, you're so serious about building your business and you want to ensure that the money you are making to secure your future will help serve your family in the event of your death. How do you plan for the unexpected? And how do you set up a will to manage or even a trust around your estate and the assets you've worked so hard to attain? Well, this morning we're going to be speaking to Walter, who is the CEO of Fedgroup Life. And Walter is actually going to share some of his insights and his knowledge around the importance of drafting a will to protect your family and your business. And we're going to learn a hell of a lot more around how to actually craft up a will, why is it important, and how we go about also setting up a trust for our business. So a very warm welcome to you, Walter. Welcome to the Drive Your Business show.
Good morning, Lucille. Thank you very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. Yes, I'm so glad that we could connect this morning. I know that we were having a bit of technical issues at the back end, and like I had said in the beginning of the show, we're living in the new norm right now, and a lot of people do. I mean, we battle sometimes to get on. And actually, last week I had a show where it was just during the load shedding as well. So I had to quickly click onto the generator and try and get things running. And so don't worry, a warm welcome. I'm so glad you made it, Walter.
Thank you for having me, and I do apologize. As you say, all the technology that we're using now, we've become masters of it, and every day we learn something new.
Yeah, that's the brilliance. And I love the open mind, by the way. I love the fact that you're open to actually be learning something new every day. So that's fantastic. All right, Walter, let's kick this off. I'd like for you to just give us a little bit of background with regards to who you are and how you fit into the Fedgroup group.
Sure. As you said, I'm CEO of Fedgroup Life. My group CEO is Grant Fields. So we've got quite a big financial services group with various licenses where we provide a range of financial services products, investment products. We also take care of beneficiaries in terms of their needs. So those are widows and orphans in case when somebody passes away, we protect that lump sum amount of money. We also provide retirement savings solutions. And my background has always been in financial services. I studied actuarial science back in the day, got a bursary through an insurance company. Never qualified as an actuary. I always joke about it by saying that, I decided to rather have a personality than a qualification, and now I've got neither. So it's worked out well. I've been in the industry for 30 years now. Also worked with another big insurer, also on the life side, on the insurance side. And the great thing about Fedgroup is the range of product that we have and the range of exposure that you gain from working in a small company family-owned business. We really strive to be innovative in the way that we provide product, utilizing technology. We were joking about technology earlier on, and how that's differentiated our business in enabling us to truly provide the services and product to our customers at a cost-effective and efficient basis.
Yeah, and as we've been doing these investments, and I've been interviewing the various executives on board, I must admit that this is something that is really, really shining through as far as Fedgroup is concerned. The fact that you have not only thought about growing and evolving the business, but also helping your customer out. And it becomes cost effective at the end of the day, which I think is so brilliant. All right, so I'm going to jump straight into the very first question with regards to wills and trusts. And this is something that I know that a lot of entrepreneurs and small business owners really battle with. And it's so uncomfortable because, as you're saying, and your intro there, Walter, is that, you know, these unforeseen things do happen, and they happen in business. You know, there might be a disability or a death or something does happen along your journey, along your, whether it's a business partner or you, and it does affect the business as well as family life. So what is the best way when we talk about wills? Why is it important for business owners to draft a will, would you say?
So first of all, it's important to recognize that everybody needs a will. So not just business owners, but for all of us. And as a business owner, without a properly drafted will in place, there's the risk that you could lose everything that you've worked for. It's not something that we want to think about, but it's unavoidable. And there's a good reason for putting a will in place. So I'm just going to run through those reasons. It enables you to make your wishes known. So it's very important that you can be assured that your assets will be covered and dispensed with in the way that you wish. So you need to do that beforehand. It's also to take better care of your children. You want to ensure that your children's financial needs are met when you are no longer there to do so. It also removes the delays in winding up your estate. Having an estate plan in place means you can be assured that the assets will be dispersed again in the way that you've wished. It also helps prevent them being allocated in the courts, because if you haven't specified who inherits what part of your estate, the courts need to decide. And that, of course, creates uncertainty, you know, in terms of where your legacy will end up. And you will also save your estate thousands of rands. You know, many people are unaware of the large sums of money that are often required for immediate expenses that relate to an estate, to pay the fees, to pay the taxes, and to finalize that estate. And that puts your beneficiaries through even more trauma and even more emotional burden in terms of your death, and you want to avoid that. And the most important thing is that you get peace of mind.
Okay.
So,
all right, I want to just hone in on with regards to saving some costs on your estates. What does that culminate to? Let's say, for instance, I haven't put a will in place, and now I haven't left anything in writing for my family or my children. What happens in that case and scenario? Can you just explain a little bit more there?
Sure. So people don't realize if you don't have a valid and up-to-date will in place, your estate will fall under what's called the Intestate Succession Act, which is legislation that determines how your assets will get divided between your surviving spouse, your children, your parents or siblings, according to a set formula. So it takes all the control away and your wishes won't be fulfilled. And this can also result in a delay in winding up your estate and incur even more costs. So the cost side of it is quite extensive. So I'm just going to unpack it a little bit in terms of value of an estate to guide us all to understand it better. So if your estate is worth more than 3.5 million when you die, a high percentage of estate duty will have to be paid before your money and assets can be released to your beneficiaries. So it's therefore in your best interest to put this will in place. It's not such a difficult calculation to make for each of us to determine what is the value of our estate. And then you put a will in place. And I just want to run you through that aspect of it. So not getting to the exact estate cost formula, I don't believe that's the important component here, but that 3.5 million number I'll refer back to, just so that we can keep that in mind. So your primary rebate for an estate on the first 3.5 million also rolls over to your spouse. So it's very important to specify your spouse as the main beneficiary within your will. So when they die, their estate would then have a 7 million deduction before any estate duty is payable. So that's a very simple and cost-effective way of saving cost within your estate. So the other aspect is a business will should also not be confused with an individual's will, which is executed in terms of the Wills Act. So instead, the concept of a business will refers to a succession plan. It's often referred to as a buy and sell agreement. And what it does is it expresses the wishes of the business owner as to who will take over his or her share in the business and at what price. So this is the major differentiator that I just want to make here in terms of a will, and then a succession plan, or as it's called, a buy and sell agreement. So just carrying on with that. So
and then again, yes, go ahead, because I want you to expand on that well, so go ahead.
That's fine. So a buy and sell agreement is a legally binding contract that stipulates how a business partner's share of a business may be reassigned if that partner dies or otherwise leaves the business. Most often, buy and sell agreements stipulate that the available share to be sold to the remaining partners or to the partnership. So that in itself is technical and a legal document. So often wills are difficult to implement because they just don't have enough detail about how to deal with certain issues. So this is the one issue that they specify in the will, that the shares in terms of the business owner, in terms of the ownership within the business, are dealt with in the buy and sell agreement. The other aspect of a will is that you need to ensure that there's enough cash in an estate to fully implement the will. So if there's assets, it doesn't mean that the will can be executed because there's costs associated with that estate and with that will. If there's not sufficient cash, then the executor of that estate will be forced to sell assets to create the liquidity or create the cash in order to execute the will. So that's another key principle that we need to keep in mind when we set up our wills and do our estate planning.
Okay, wow, this is really shedding a lot of light for me, especially when it comes to, having that business involvement and how your partner can actually also apply for that will, as well as that buying and selling agreement, which is so key and so important, especially in business today. And that ability for the family to either take over the shares or else to sell those shares back to the other partner. I think that's so important. All right, so welcome to you. I do see that we've got a couple of people on board. You're watching Drive Your Business live stream today. We're talking to Walter, who is the CEO at Fedgroup Life, and we're talking all around securing your future. What are wills? How should we use them, not only in business, but in our personal lifestyle? And what is the trust as well? We're going to also explore that, how to set that up in a business stance as well as for your own personal or family use as well. It's so important that we understand this as business owners, because after all, we're making the money. Now we've got to know and be intelligent enough and have the advantage of having that knowledge on how properly to set up not only our investment funds, but what happens after the fact. What happens if we are disabled, or what happens after our death? We've got to get all of these types of documents set in play. So that's very, very important. If you are watching, please, like always, leave a comment down below. Even if you just want to say hi, if you want to pose a question this morning to Walter, please feel free to do that. In fact, we've got Gavin. Thanks, Gavin, for watching. And I just want to pop your little comment up onto the screen so that Walter can also see what you have to say. And he says, wow, something we don't think about as business owners It's so incredibly important. I can't agree more. And going into business, whether you have partners or you starting up as an entrepreneur and you're doing it yourself, these are things that you have to consider, because what happens in the likelihood of your death, what happens if you get disabled while you are in business, is when you're a small business owner, you might have partners, you might have shareholders, or it's so important your paperwork in queue so that people are aware. The other things that I just wanted to pick up, and as Walter was talking, I was making a couple of notes about it, is that there are 4 major things that you have to really look at when you are setting up a will for yourself, whether it's a personal will or whether it's a will that you're going to also include with your business. And that is, after your death, it's a document that allows people to understand your wishes upon your death. Because remember, you can't speak anymore. There is no go back. People need to understand what are your wishes for your distribution of your wealth, and that is important. The other thing is, how do you want to take care of your family, your children? Do they benefit? Who are the beneficiaries? Those are things that you want to put out in your will as well. The other thing is, you want to also try and put in all of the aspects of how you want your estate to be divided as well. And that is quite important as well, because it helps to prevent the other estate, what do you call them? Estates, policy people, I don't know, people who come and actually take over that estate, and they then reassign your estate if you haven't got a will in place. It costs more, and it's not as effective as you actually writing down that will as well. It is quite important. Then also, Walter was talking a little bit about buying and selling agreement. This is something that any business owner, if you are looking to actually go in, even in a partnership with anyone, this is key. This is one of the fundamentals within your business that you have to set and have going from the get-go, so that there is clear directive when you, upon your death, whether your partner buys the business or whether that business and the shares of the business goes towards your family, they have the option then to actually sell the business or keep it and also run it with the partner. You have to have all of this set in place. Did I miss anything there, Walter?
Lucille, I just want to give a short summary on the will aspect. I realized that I did talk quite a bit there and I didn't go back to it. So on the will itself, it's important to remember that a will is a legally binding document. As you stated, it sets out your wishes regarding the distribution of your estate and taking care of your minor children. Those are the two key principles. And maybe this will help if I just summarize what you need to include in your will. So with any and every estate, an executor is given authority by the master of the High Court to administer your estate and distribute your assets in accordance with your will. So there will be, after your death, there's a legal document that appoints an executor to your estate that allows them now to execute on the estate. So and you need to specify that in your will. Who do you want your executor to be? That could be a bank, that could be a person. The important thing there that you need to remember is that if it's a person, that they sufficiently qualified to be able to execute your estate. So it's not just a friend or an acquaintance or a person like that. It must be a properly qualified person. Then in your will, you need to specify your beneficiaries. So it can be a person, it can be a charity, it can be an organization that can inherit an asset. Then your funeral wishes, which is also a key aspect, especially if you have specific wishes that relates to your funeral. Then name the guardians of your children and their responsibilities. Make that very clear within your will. And then, of course, the distribution of your estate. What assets and valuables will you leave to whom? And then, of course, a very simple but also a key aspect, your will must be signed and witnessed by two individuals. And it's very important that those witnesses cannot be beneficiaries of your will, because there's a conflict then for them if they are a beneficiary of your will and then they also witness your signature.
Okay.
So that's just a short summary of
Nice.
the key aspects of a will. And then I can run into a little bit more on the business side for business owners, because there's different types of businesses out there, you know, sole proprietors, partnerships, and that, just to give them some food for thought in terms of what happens if they should pass away, and specifically to their business that they need to consider. So
Okay, that's perfect.
a business owner should put a clear document in place, as we've already said, a succession plan, you know, a buy and sell agreement. And in doing so, they need to consider what will happen if they step down, if they pass away, in terms of who they would want to take over the business. You know, if it's a beneficiary, they need to be clear that this person can run the business. And more importantly, if they are willing to run the business, they must make that sure of that beforehand. And often there might be more than one candidate that they want the business to pass over to. It's a big decision to make, but it's best to consider that up front, consider it now, and make that clear to ensure, as you said at the beginning, that business can continue and that the legacy that the business owner has created can pass on and continue to grow. So at the death of a sole proprietor, the business ceases to exist. The executives of the estate cannot keep the business running as if nothing has changed. Therefore, unless the last will and testament makes provision for someone to take over the business while the estate is being wound up, or there is a buy and sell agreement, as we've already mentioned, in place with a third party, the business will be forced to shut its doors. So this is how important that is for a sole proprietor. Okay. Within a partnership, on the other hand, it's automatically terminated even if the other partner plans to continue with business. The deceased partner's estate needs to be wound up, and the executors may not be able to transfer the business assets to the other partner if there's not enough cash in the business or there is no buy and sell agreement in place. So just those two types of businesses, that's why this is so important to put it in place. And then because businesses are all different, they're all unique, I strongly advise business owners to enlist the help of both financial and legal advisors when drawing up a will, in order to ensure that all potential problems that's unique to their business are in fact addressed.
Okay, that's perfect. And some good advice there. So I also want to just direct people towards the Fedgroup website. I'm just popping that right up onto the actual screen now as well. Because Fedgroup offers this type of service. And one of the key things that I noticed when I was hanging out there, especially under the wills, is that you can go and download a pre-designed will template that will help you to get there. And it's all the elements that Walter is already talking about. Now, Walter, if somebody does come towards the website, we download this, would you recommend that we then reach back out to Fedgroup? How would we go about doing this process, please?
So absolutely, to go to the website to download the document, because you need to collect the information needed to set up your will. So that'll guide you, because it's quite extensive documentation that you need. And then in doing so, if you have any questions, to please reach out to us. You can do so electronically via email. That way you can set up your questions and get the wording right, and we can respond. Alternatively, you're more than welcome to phone us, give us a phone call, and you can speak to someone, an expert that can then guide you, telephonically as to everything that you need to do in order to structure this correctly for your specific needs.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you for that direction, because it always just helps, especially when we go towards digital assets. Sometimes we don't know what to do after we've downloaded, so it does help. It just gives us a little bit more clarity. All right, a warm welcome to you if you have just popped in. You're watching Drive Your Business live stream with myself, Lucille Devine. My special guest this morning is Walter. He's the CEO of Fedgroup Life. And he's just discussing with regards to wills, as well as trust, which we're going to go into right now, how you should actually go about drafting one up. And not only that, what should be in a will. We've just discussed that as well. Now we do what the difference is, and this is quite important again for business owners, entrepreneurs, as well as influencers. This is so important, is we want to understand what the difference between a will and a trust is. So Walter, what kind of advice would you give our followers with regards to the difference between a will and a trust? How do that work?
That's fine. So a will is the only legal document that will contain all your last wishes of how your assets should be distributed after you pass away. And it's clear it's very important to make it clear of who your beneficiaries are and who the executor of your estate will be. On the trust side, to make that introduction, children under the age of 18 cannot legally inherit. So to make sure your children have access to their inheritance, you can set up a trust for your minor children in your will. So you specify that in your will that your children inherit, that their part or share of your estate will go into trust. So the trustees who you should name in your will administer the trust and use the funds in the trust to take care of your children. If you have no will or don't set up a trust in your will for your children, your assets will be sold and the proceeds invested in the guardian's fund, which means your children will have limited access to the funds until they reach the age of 18. So also, if you have special needs children or care for an adult who cannot take care of themselves, you can set up a special trust to make sure they have the financial support through their life. This is what's called a testamentary trust. There's two types of trust. There's also an inter vivos trust. Just on the testamentary trust, these are the most common trusts in our country and are used to ensure, as I've said, that your assets are protected to look after your children after you've passed away. So there's no trust actually established while you're alive. It's only set up once you pass away, as specified within your will. That's what's called the testamentary trust. An inter vivos or family trust is a trust that is established while you're alive. And I'm going to use the technical words and then explain them. It's set up by the founder. It's called the founder during his or her or their lifetime. So it could be more than one person. And it's set up according to specifications of that founder. So the founder specifies how that trust is structured. It provides protection of assets and allow those assets to pass seamlessly from one generation to the next. There's also trustees are nominated by the founder in the trust deed. They are responsible for administering the assets in accordance with the trust deed and the laws relating to the trust. And your beneficiaries listed in the trust deed will benefit from the trust assets. The founder and a trustee may also be nominated as beneficiaries. An inter vivos trust is typically established to hold assets for the benefit of a party called the trust beneficiaries. The trustee is typically assigned to manage those assets and to ensure that the trust agreement is followed. And now I want to come back to that 3.5 million number that I mentioned earlier on. Because of the costs associated with setting up a trust, if you don't have assets worth more than 3.5 million, it's not a cost-effective solution. It's not advisable to set up an inter vivos or living trust because the cost associated will be exorbitant and will deplete the assets over time. It actually won't protect assets if there's not sufficient assets or liquidity within that trust. Another key aspect of inter vivos trusts is taxation. So just to run through the tax side of it is these types, the tax that applies to these trusts are extensive. In other words, these trusts pay a rate of 45% tax. That's on all the proceeds, all the rental dividends, capital gains, and that type of thing. So you must consider the tax implications of setting up a trust and the fees associated with this type of trust.
Okay, so let's hypothetically say, for instance, I want to set up a trust for my family. We're obviously looking then at a family trust, because I want certain people to benefit within my family. And I mean, the taxes are quite high at 45%. What would you suggest that I look at? If not a trust, what are the other alternatives that are available to me that I could set up there, Walter?
So again, I mean, through a will and your estate, you can specify who your beneficiaries are to ensure that they then inherit, that your assets pass over to them when you pass away. And of course, there are estate duties and taxes involved. But the first that number again that I mentioned in terms of 3.5 million. Just to explain it again, and again, now I'm also looking for the right term, the primary rebate. So then an estate pays less fees and taxes. That's at 3.5 million.
I see.
So that is the most efficient and cost-effective way to then transfer ownership and protect the assets, not to incur those taxes, as I mentioned, or tax payments, as I mentioned, that arises in the inter vivos or living trust.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one of the key things is, you also want to, especially after, whether it's after your death, or even if you are disabled, there's one of the key things is that you want to still provide for your family, but you want the best scenario when it comes to using your money in an effective way. So I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing that. All right, you've been watching the Drive Your Business live stream with myself, Lucille Devine. My guest this morning is he is the CEO of Fedgroup Life. And yeah, we've been talking about trusts and wills. And although I know it's very technical and sometimes does go over my head, I have to really sit and think about everything and strategically understand everything. That's why I do like to write down everything. But yes, if you have found any of this information very valuable, I'm going to invite you right now to go ahead and tag anyone in the actual comment section below, anyone that you feel might find value in some of this information that Walter has shared with us this morning. If not on the public forum, please go ahead and share using that share icon at the bottom right-hand corner. It's that little arrow that looks like it's pointing outward. Just click on that and go ahead and share this with either your network, your friends, your family, or someone who needs this type of information, especially if they're in business and they're not properly protected and they don't have a will in place. This is vital information that will help them uncover those steps and the procedures involved in order for them to actually go out and get one. The other thing you can, please go and follow Fedgroup. I've had quite a few execs on board. We've been talking about various things, and through this investment series, I've really discovered so much about how to invest properly, how to grow my money and my wealth as an entrepreneur, and also now how to look after my family, even after my death, or even after I'm disabled and I actually can't function for them. So important. All of these aspects are so important for you as a business owner, and that is why I also want to bring it to your attention. The other thing that you can do, if you are watching the replay, you are more than welcome to ask a question. Just put in the word replay, hashtag that word, ask the question. It just makes it so much easier for me actually to follow up with regards to that as well. All right, well, we're going to come to the end of the show, and thank you again for making the time for us and for being live on the business Drive Your Business live stream. It's been an absolute pleasure. I normally ask my my guests if they can share some wisdom or some light towards the end of the show, and that's what I'd like for you to do right now. I just want you to share some insight or some knowledge or some quote that you feel is so relevant when you talk about wills and trusts before we actually start to end off the show. So I'm going to hand it over to you, please, Walter.
Thanks, Cecile. difficulty for all of us is that we think we're going to live forever and nothing bad is going to happen to us. Let's use this year and the bizarre circumstances that we found ourselves in, and the new normal, as we call it now, that we've faced, to act today, to protect your family. We all care about our families. We care about our spouses, our children, and the legacy that we leave for them. So act today, take the responsibility to take the time to set up a will, to set up a succession plan, to protect their interests. That's how we love and care for them. And that's how we want to ensure that their futures are protected, even when we're not around. So that's my parting comment.
Okay, fantastic. Protect your children and your family's future, even though you're not around. That's a strong message that you need to drive home, especially if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, or even an influencer, and you're building this business. It's time to really stop and take a look and think. And like Walter has mentioned, I mean, this year, if this is anything to go by, and we're heading into the future, now is the time. Don't second guess this. Do it now. All right, Walter, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I'm so glad that we made it through and we managed to actually do this live. It's been awesome. And thank you so much for all of your insight, your knowledge. I've learned it, and I'd like to thank you for hanging out with me on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Lucille, and I've really enjoyed it. And I'll be able to connect so much quicker the next time and be on time. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Walter. Enjoy your day. Cheers, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Bye.